graduate?
04. Make me feel old now.
Yeah, and Corey was
10.
10. So, it's cool to see these guys come back and speak to you guys. So, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Adrian here, and he's going to explain about what they're going to do today. They brought along some toys, as they would say, and then if there is time, we'll see how things go. They also have the fire truck outside, and if we want to get out there and look at that a little bit, we certainly can.
What about the hose?
Huh? Yeah, we're not going to play. All right, Andy, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Well, welcome guys to this class, okay? We're here to teach you a little bit about fire, people in the fire service, as well as become a paramedic, as well as a firefighter. So as you heard teacher already say, a few of us have a little history here at Wausau West. Shane graduated from here, Corey graduated from here. I've got 2 boys that graduated from here, Nick Adrian and Eric Adrian, a couple years ahead, and then 4 years ahead already too. And Mike Failing has spent a lot of time losing here at Wausau West. He's from the east side of town, as Wausau East, lumberjack, but he graduated from east and has been to west here quite a bit, so he's gotten his poundings taken coming to the west side.
Go Warriors!
But, so anyways, that's kind of the history between all of us here. If you guys have questions during this little presentation, feel free to ask. We're just going to explain a few things of what it takes to become a firefighter, what it becomes to be a paramedic, schooling that you need to take, and the things that you can do right here in town at the technical college, or if you go on to a university, as well as to possibly another technical college to pursue a degree. Okay? So I'll turn it over to Corey just a little bit here to show you a little presentation here as well. And like I say, don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any.
Alright, so our job is very unique. Obviously, it's not a 9-to-5 job. We work 24-hour shifts, so we come in the morning at 6:30 a.m. and we leave the following day at 6:30. So we're spending the whole 24 hours with each other working. A little bit about Wausau. We got 3 stations. We run about 6,000 calls a year. Most of those calls are EMS, so that's 911 calls involving the ambulance. Let's see here. So 3 stations, like I said, most of our stuff that we do is EMS. A lot of EMS is medical emergencies or trauma. We also do some stuff, water rescue on the river, Lake Wausau. We've had some water rescues this year. A little bit of hazmat, that's like your chemical stuff. Structure fires, that's kind of our bread and butter, but those 2 don't happen all that often. So like I said, a lot of it is ambulance stuff. Which I guess if any of you are kind of thinking about going that route, or just the medical field in general, nursing, you know, med school, whatever. We work with a lot of guys that are cross-trained as nurses as well as paramedics, but being in the paramedic service, you kind of start and take the same classes that nursing students and even like med school students do. So if you guys are kind of thinking about going that route, we still can't answer a lot of stuff regarding health, I guess, or medicine stuff.
Quick question for you. You saw you have the 3 stations, and with the ambulance and the fire, and you guys working together so much. Why is it when the ambulance goes, a lot of times does the fire force go?
So, depending on the call, we kind of rate it as how serious it is. So any chest pain, stroke, trauma, unresponsive, pediatric usually, that warrants the engine to come. So we staff our ambulances with 2 paramedics. Everyone on the ambulances are paramedics. And then if we need extra assistance, the engine will come to assist us, just extra hands. A lot of the engineers are also cross-trained as paramedics. Some of them are EMTs, but everyone kind of knows what's going on. So if it's a very serious call, depending on what dispatch tells us, we might need the extra help. In that case, 2 paramedics in the back, and then 1 guy will drive us to the hospital. Sometimes even 3 in the back if stuff's really hitting the fan.
You mentioned upon that, a good catch on that. So if the ambulance is going first, the fire engine's following, we're going to assist them on med call. If the engine is first and the med is going, we're going to fire. So if you see them respond down the street, depending on what apparatus you're seeing first, is going to clue into what type of call we have. If the engine's leading the way, we have a fire. If we're following the med, we're going to assist them in a med call.
So just a little bit on our day, how it works, since we work 24-hour shifts. We do have a scheduled work day, so when we get there at 6:30, 6:45, we sit down, have coffee, talk about what happened the day before with the crew, exchange information on supplies we might need, stuff that's broken, whatever. At 7 o'clock, we do our morning chores, we check up our air packs, check our equipment off, make sure both rigs are ready for the whole day. And then from usually 8 to 9, we have mandatory wellness, so we get to work out for an hour, which is great. Then usually from 9 to noon is our training time in the morning. So every day it's scheduled that we do different training, whether it be EMS, medical training, or fire training. We train a lot in like abandoned houses in Wausau, doing mock scenarios, mock burns, stuff like that. And then we get lunch for an hour, and then the afternoon it's usually more training, and we do a lot of PR stuff like this out in the community. And then our workday usually ends around 4:30, and then we usually wash the trucks up so they're cleaned up, and then from 4:30 until 9 is kind of our own time to do what we want, which is nice since we're away from home so much. That gives us some downtime to hopefully catch the Packer game if they're playing, or whatever it may be. But so it's very unique, and that's our work schedule throughout the day. However, it never really goes that way. I mean, every single day we work is completely different. You know, we might get 911 calls all day long from 6:30 when we get there to 9 when we go to bed. We might not have a call until 9 p.m., get our first call at 10:30 p.m. and be up all night long. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just really depends on what's going on in the city. A couple other things we do: a lot of car accidents, a lot of vehicle extrication. I talked a little about hazmat, confined space, water rescue, ice rescue in the winter. We've had a lot of ice rescues. And then we got an inspection division that goes around and inspects all the buildings throughout the city of Wausau to make sure they're up to code to try and prevent any fires from happening. So that's just a little bit about our day. It's very unique. So if you're the type of person that doesn't like to do the same thing, can't sit still, this is a perfect job for you, or career. I mean, even the medical field is, every patient is completely different than your last, and we have a lot of stories about crazy patients, funny patients, helping people. It's kind of cool. So I was never one to sit in class and be a good student. I couldn't focus. So I love this job for that exact reason. It's just every single day is different, and most of the time it's a lot of fun. Especially the camaraderie on the station. It's a good time. A little bit about schooling. Shane and I both took kind of different routes. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a firefighter, and that's what I wanted to do. So I actually graduated from here, went to North Central and took my just general college classes. I went to Fox Valley Tech in Appleton for my fire science degree, which was an associate's degree. Moved back and realized that you're probably not going to get a job in the fire service unless you're a paramedic, which I had no idea. Even when I was in high school, I was like, what's EMS, what's paramedicine? It doesn't really interest me. But I wanted to be a firefighter, so I kind of gave it a shot. Moved back here, and then I took my paramedic at NTC, which was 1 year. So that's kind of the route I took. How'd you go about it?
So both Corey and I were big DECA nerds and into marketing, and ran the school store because that's what we were into back then. So I always liked the science stuff here, but never thought about it as a career choice. And male nursing wasn't really the coolest thing back then, so it wasn't as heavily pushed. And I spent a year at the MC doing business, marketing, all that, and realized that wasn't what I wanted, and I wanted to do something in the medical field. So I started going to the tech for nursing, took all my prereqs, and when I was there, everybody said taking EMT is the best thing you can do to kind of round yourself out, get an idea of what you need to do in the medical field, and that training that you have pre-hospital really sets you up to take care of people in the hospital, because it makes you think outside the box when you don't have a doctor telling you exactly what to do. So even if people are thinking about doing nursing in here, while you're doing your prereqs, you can take an EMT basic class. It's a 3-credit class in the fall, spring you can take it. It's good to just kind of well-round you, even if you're just thinking about nursing. So I'd highly recommend doing that. I took that class while I was doing my nursing and thought this is way more exciting than working in a nursing home, being a nurse. I was originally thinking I was going to be a flight nurse, ER nurse, something more interesting like that, and the EMS side of things really kinda caught my attention as something fun, different, you never know what's gonna happen. Our radio could go off at any second, we could have a structure fire to a car accident, somebody having a heart attack, and we can go and make a difference. So I kept going on with my fire and paramedic and NTC, and they didn't have a fire medic program at the time, but now they do, so you can get everything all together in about 2.5 to 3 years, get your full degree, depending on what kind of credits you could roll over ahead of time. So, does anybody have any questions about any of the schooling or anything that tech offers?
So you don't have to, just because you're an EMT doesn't mean you have to ride on the ambulance. Being an EMT, they'll hire you in most hospitals, ERs hire EMTs to do basically the same stuff we do, but it's in a controlled setting. So when I thought about it, I was like, oh man, you're an EMT, you're in the hospital, or you're on the ambulance all the time, and then as my career got going, you kind of see all these different EMTs out in the community too. So just because you're an EMT or a paramedic doesn't mean that you have to work for a fire department also.
The emergency medical technician in Wausau is also a firefighter, okay? But if you don't like the firefighting, like Corey was saying, there are the bigger cities, and Wausau is not one of them that has their own private ambulance service. You can go to work actually for your own private ambulance service or for a hospital that has an ambulance service. Wausau is just a little bit different. You go to a bigger city, and I'll just pick like say Milwaukee, they've got private ambulance companies that actually just run ambulance calls all the time. So if firefighting isn't something that you want to pursue a degree in, but EMS is and helping people, that would be another alternative for you as well. If you're looking to also go to a bigger city, you know, a lot more things happen in a bigger city, of course, than Wausau. But you get to be on the ambulance, and you might run calls 24 hours a day straight through, or you're on a shift for 12 hours a day as well. And then after you get your EMT license and then a paramedic license, you can be strictly on an ambulance if you want to. And like both these guys have said, the job is always changing. You know, you're never really on the same call twice. You know, it doesn't repeat itself. You get that reward and that satisfaction sometimes of helping somebody else. You get to help somebody possibly save a life, actually, because their heart stopped, and you bring them back, and people remember you for doing that. Firefighting, you get to put out a fire or something like that and save their house or save something, you know, from burning all the way up. It's rewarding, it's satisfying, it's basically we're just doing our job, but you make a lot of people happy and you change a lot of people's lives. And then they really appreciate what you do, and here we just think, you know, we're just doing our job and doing what we can to help you guys, but if that's something that you like and something different, and you get up in the morning and you don't know what's gonna happen, this is a job or some career path for you guys to pursue, okay?
So how often do you work if you're doing 24-hour shifts?
That's a good question, okay. So we'll try to paint a picture here. So today is the last day of our swing, we call it. There's 3 days in a swing. So we'll come into work, say it's Monday morning, we'll work Monday, we have off Tuesday. We work Wednesday, we have off Thursday. We work Friday, and then we get 4 days off. And after that 4th day, we come back to work, and that cycle just repeats itself. So we work, 3 out of 9 days, but those are 24-hour shifts, so it's broken down to 52 hours a week. So the schedule itself is something we didn't really talk about. We work a lot of holidays, you're away from your family a lot, but at the same time, you are home a lot. Having 4 days off in a row, you get to do a lot for the outdoorsmen. A lot of us hunt and fish and stuff, and it's kind of nice in the fall for that. But just the schedule itself, or you take vacation 1 day and all of a sudden you have 6 days off. So it's kind of nice that way. It's a very open schedule, and a lot of people that we work with actually have side jobs because we have quite a bit of time off. And the schedule is kind of intended that way because on the days off, it kind of is our chance to go home, be with our families, spend time with them, kind of just reflect and I guess more so relax, because some days are very stressful. I mean, the stuff we see isn't exactly rated PG. We see a lot, we deal with a lot. It's a mental game a lot of days, so we take those days, those 4 days especially, just to kind of relax and turn our radios off, go home, and kind of not worry about what's going on in the city. So that's a good question though.
So when you're on call, do you have to be at the firehouse, or say you're like on call during Christmas, are you allowed to be at home with your family, you get a call and you go?
Nope, when we come into shift, we're there for a full 24 hours no matter what. When we're off shift, we go home and we don't have to worry about what's going on in the city. If there's a really large scale event, the laundromat fire that happened in Wausau, I don't know if you guys know that, the warehouse fire that happened last year. If it's a large scale event, they'll call in for overtime, but it's not mandatory, it's if you wanna come in, so. And there's a lot of guys that they'll work their 3 days, they'll go home and you won't hear from them at all, which is fine. So it's kinda how active you wanna be. You know, a lot of people are involved in extracurricular stuff at the station, but for the most part, it's just, work and leave.
Is South Mountain, are they volunteer there now, or are there other full-time people at South Mountain?
South Mountain is now safer, or Rib Mountain and Weston have combined to make one department, which is called Safer, the South Area Fire District. They have full-time staff now, but they also have what are called POCs, which is called paid on call. Those are the people, Liz, like you had asked, those are the people that are at home. Their pager goes off or their phone goes off, they get called in, then they respond to the station. But there's people at the station to initially respond to that call. And then the paid on calls come in to fill those spots while they're out on the call. When they get back, then they go, just in case another call comes in while they're gone. Okay?
So yeah, it's technically a volunteer department, but they do have a couple full-time staff. Smaller municipalities will have that just because they don't have the funding to staff. They don't have the funding or the call volume to staff fire departments full-time.
Mention maybe those other shifts. You talked about our shifts. We work what they call California swing, is 3 out of 5 with 4 off. In Chicago, they work 1 on, 2 off. And just repeats itself. Places like Merrill, Rhinelander, they work a 48-96, which is 2 days in a row, 4 days off. So I mean, no matter what department you're on, you're going to work, 10 days a month with 20 off. It's just how it's set up, So a lot of those times, for 2 days on, it's maybe tough for young families, and you got, hey, where's Dad? Well, he's gone for the last 2 days working, It's tough for that way, but decides to have 4 days off. In Chicago, you never get more than 2 days off. You work a day, get 2 off, right back at it. So that's the professional firefighter types of shifts.
Just kind of going back to our schooling, so once you get your paramedic license, you're not exactly done with school. We have to refresh our license every 2 years. And that's usually 48 hours of mandatory training. But we do train throughout the year, so we kind of keep track of that. This is definitely a job where you're always learning. You're certainly, every day you learn something new. I don't know, there's always new licenses coming out or new technology or whatever it's going to be to benefit patient care. So you're definitely not done. When I was done with college, I'm like, yeah, I never have to go back to school again. And it's like pretty much every day is kind of like a new day of school sometimes. So just kind of keep that in mind.
There's always the continuing education. Probably in just about any job you get, even at a factory, if you get a job at a factory, machines are changing, they're just different things. You have to go back and learn how to use that. Just like in medical service, just like in fire service. There's just new things coming out all the time, getting introduced, that you need to learn the new method. The way we did it 25 years ago or so is a little different than the way we do it now. The way we respond to calls is a little bit different. The ambulances have changed quite a bit. The ambulances have gotten better. The fire engines have gotten better, more powerful. 100 years ago, there were horses pulling the fire engines. Now we have a motor on there. We don't have to, rely on bucket brigades anymore, okay, because we have fire hydrants. That's the technology and the things that are changing. So in your next 50 years of working out in the field, you're gonna see many changes as well, and we need to keep up with those changes as well in the fire service as well as the EMS field. Okay?
Exit this, and then I got hit this. Oh, I got this up on the other.
Oh, you can hit that, hold on. You can hit that and I'll talk just a little bit. So the fire science degree and the fire medic degree that Corey was talking about, it's basically a 2.5 year degree like he said. It's combined with all your classes, a lot of prerequisites and stuff for your associate degree. Whether it's at the technical college that you go to, Fox Valley, wherever it might be. Okay, your first semester is a full semester, you're still taking about 15 credits for that. And then it gets you ready for the next one, and then the next semester, the next semester. The EMT is roughly a semester class that you take, that you can take in the afternoons, evenings, just depending when it's offered, but within those few months, you've got your EMT license. Paramedic is a little bit longer with all the with all the ride-alongs that you have to do, with the stuff that you have to do at the hospital, and different clinicals that you have to do as well. Your fire degree though, you actually get some hands-on with firefighting, and there's a state level 1 and a state level 2 levels or degrees that you have to get as well, and that you get when you're going through with your associate degree, which is actually hands-on firefighting. It's not just classroom work, okay, but there is a lot of classroom work that you do learn about firefighting as well as the EMS, but then there is that hands-on feeling that you get, meaning that you're out on an ambulance, whether it's with the city of Wausau, sometimes you do ride-alongs, whether it's with Merrill or Stevens Point, or like say you get to a big city and you can do a ride-along with one of the bigger cities. Firefighting is the same way. You get to get some hands-on training at some of these houses that we know are gonna get torn down. So we get to start fires in them first. We get to cut holes in the roof. We get to, break an entry into the buildings and stuff, break windows, and you learn all about the fire flow and how fire and everything works. EMS is the same way. So there's a lot of little extra schooling to go to it, but it is a 2-year degree that you get your associates for, and that kind of just breaks it down. This video that Corey's going to show you here is it's only about 2 minutes, not very long, but it gives you a good idea of all the different firefighting stuff, a little bit of people going in and out of fires, the training that we go through with it as well. So just kind of take a look at that, and once we're done, if you have questions, just let us know, okay?
Being a fire medic is not just about fighting fires. It's about responding to emergencies, saving lives, and helping keep our communities free from harm's way. It is a merger of 2 important life-saving professions, firefighters and paramedics. Not only do fire medics work quickly to control and extinguish fires, they also spring into action to rescue victims and treat injuries until they can be safely transported to a hospital. It takes a certain kind of person to serve as a fire medic. Someone who is agile and confident. Someone who can handle critical decision-making while working under pressure. Someone who lives adaptability and breathes commitment. You start with a call. You arrive, you assess, and you act. You keep your cool in high-stress situations. And when the alarm sounds, you are ready to run into the blazing building while everyone else is running out. At North Central Technical College, we care about our communities and are passionate about keeping them safe. We learn firefighting principles, advanced firefighter concepts, and special rescue tactics. Paramedic medical principles, patient assessment, and emergency resuscitation. We are fire medics. Earn your fire medic associate degree at North